Welcome to the Money and Wealth Show. Brought to you this week by AmericanManganeseInc.com. Always consult your investment professional before making any investment decision. The Money and Wealth Show is archived online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Here's Victor Adair.
Well, hello there. We're at the Vancouver Hotel at the Agora Conference. It's late July 2012. And it's my pleasure to talk again with Doug Casey. Doug, welcome back to Canada.
Thanks, Vic. I mean, I used to live here in Vancouver. I love the city.
You know, the last time we talked, and that's maybe 2 years ago, you were telling me that you were going to go back and rewrite your original book, International Man. What's happened?
Well, two things. Number one, I found out that I'm even lazier than I thought I was. So that's slowed it down. And the other thing is that the guys in my company said people don't read books. They like stuff online. And of course, with things evolving as rapidly as they are internationally, it actually makes sense to update it daily. So we have a website called internationalman.com that's free. Anybody can go on it. And we cover everything that the original books cover. Living, making the most of your personal freedom and financial opportunity around the world.
Making the most of your personal freedom. That's kind of been your theme from day one, hasn't it?
Yeah, it really is. It's very important to me.
Yeah.
People say, "Are you an enemy of authority?" And I say, yeah, but basically, I just don't like other people telling me what to do.
Yeah.
And that boils down to governments. And governments have really become quite virulent in recent years, especially since 9/11. They're all out of control all over the world.
And what's that got to do with personal freedom?
Well,
here's a softball question for you.
You've got to go someplace where the local powers that be give you the maximum of personal freedom. I don't really, as much as I like Vancouver and Canada, I don't understand why anybody who has a choice that's not tied here by their work doesn't move out. I mean, you're paying 50% of your income in taxes if you can do what you can do elsewhere. I mean, there are other places that are really just as nice that your cost would be 50% lower, your income would be net 100% higher. Seems to me like a good trade. Plus more personal freedom, because the Canadian government is actually quite intrusive too. Not as bad as the American government, but pretty bad.
You've been spending a lot of your time in Argentina lately?
I have. And that seems paradoxical because the government of Argentina under Cristina Kirchner Fernandez, she may be clinically insane, but that's the bad news. Every week there's something goofy that she and her government does. That's the bad news. But the good news is that the Argentines are used to this. This has been going on since Perón.
Okay.
So I went down there for the culture. I went down there for the climate. I went down there for everything but the state. And the state leaves you alone, certainly if you're out in the provinces, because like many third world countries, if you become a politician in Argentina, you don't do it because you want to control other people so much as just steal. And that keeps it very simple.
Okay, I mean, I don't want you to hold back during this interview. The viewers are going to want to know your views on markets, that sort of thing. We've got a lot of stresses and strains on the markets right now. Certainly, we see, for instance, a half a dozen countries in Europe with negative interest rates, not real rates, but nominal rates negative. We've got the whole United States Treasury curve is at or near all-time low yields. What is that telling us about the market? By the way, the United States all-time low yields at a time when the Treasury is issuing more debt than ever before. You know, 10 years ago, we would have never thought that could have happened.
No.
Right? What?
No.
How come?
I'm flabbergasted by it. It impresses me as a completely insane bubble, much crazier than the bubble that we had in real estate a few years back, bigger than the bubble that we had in internet stocks, the bubble in interest rates right now. So I think that these people that are paying governments money to hold their paper, they're just not thinking clearly. It's all these governments in Europe are bankrupt. The U.S. government is bankrupt. They're all like Wile E. Coyote after he's run off the cliff. Mm-hmm. So this is big trouble. I've been saying for years that if actions have consequences, if cause has effect in the real world, that what I call the Greater Depression is inevitable. And absolutely, things are coming unglued first in Europe. They'll come unglued next in China, and then Japan and the US. But the entire industrialized world is in big, big financial problem, big, big financial trouble.
I mean, you'd think perhaps one perspective on people putting their money into government paper at such low yields or negative yields is a perceived lack of alternatives. If you've got a bunch of money, what do you do with it? I mean, do you put it into the stock market? Do you put it into a bank and hope things work out? You try to bring it home and hide it under the bed? I mean, you can go and buy gold, but I mean, even then, you know, what do you do with the gold? Is it just that there's not much in the way of viable alternatives, and so they park it there?
Well, you're absolutely right, because the real estate bubble's broken, burst, and after a bubble bursts, it often takes as much as a generation for it to reinflate, as people need to lick their wounds and forget about their losses. So anyway, there's really not much value anywhere in the world in real estate. Most of it floats on a bubble of debt, and it's an obvious thing for governments to tax. So I'm not very friendly towards real estate almost anywhere, and I try to look at real estate all around the world. Stock markets, I have no interest in stock markets right now. There's no value in them. Bonds are a bubble. They're way, way too expensive, so that's a short sale opportunity. Commodities aren't cheap anymore. Look, to me, the only thing that you can own is gold, because it's the only financial asset that's not simultaneously somebody else's liability. And these people that are buying government bonds for zero interest or negative interest, which is almost unbelievable, it's very, very foolish, because those bonds are all going to dry up and blow away. Their issuers are all bankrupt. You've got currency risk. They're all destroying their currencies. You've got interest rate risk. Interest rates can only go up from here. And you've got credit risk. All these governments are bankrupt. It's a triple threat to your capital. No, they should be buying gold right now, which is not at giveaway levels anymore. It's not cheap anymore. But I think it's going to go a lot higher. There will be a bubble in gold in the future. It's not here yet by any means.
For people that are watching, that are trying to preserve their wealth, let's say preserve their purchasing power, one of the things that I've cautioned people against is not only do I think that asset prices are liable to go down, but taxes almost inevitably are going to go up.
Yep.
Would you agree?
Totally. Absolutely. I mean, all these governments around the world see their citizenry as basically milk cows, and they'll milk them with higher taxes, and if necessary, they'll treat them as beef cows. So, no, absolutely. And that's another advantage with gold, is that it's a very private asset. Once you have it, it doesn't have any Social Security numbers tattooed on the bars. As a speculation, and I think that we're going into an era where you're going to be forced to speculate, because the governments all over the world are creating so many distortions and misallocations of capital that people are almost going to be forced to speculate to outrun inflation and taxes and so forth. I think that at this point, mining stocks are so cheap that that could be a fantastic place to get multiple returns on money. You can't invest in mining stocks because they're so volatile, they're so unpredictable. That's why Warren Buffett never invests in them because they're not real businesses. But as speculations from time to time, they can be unbelievably good, and they're very cheap now. So I'd draw people's attention to those.
We're at the Agora conference in Vancouver. It's late July 2012. I think that the topic for your speech is the Greater Depression. You referenced that just a few moments ago. Just before we close here, tell us, what do you mean by that?
Well, a depression is best defined as a period of time when most people's standard of living drops significantly. And depending on how you massage the numbers and which things you want to look at, the standard of living of Americans certainly has been going down in real terms for the last 10 or 12 years. It's been held up by more debt. Those nice people in China are lending us lots of money that allow us to live above our means, but that's not going to go on forever. So I think that the world's financial system is on a razor edge. It's going to fall apart. A lot of people are going to be very unhappy with the way this thing comes down. So it's time to rig for very heavy weather, in my opinion.
And how do our listeners rig for heavy weather?
Well, as we were talking about before, Vic, because there are so few values in the world today, I think that they ought to have a lot of gold. They ought to have a good amount of silver. I think that now is an excellent time to look at mining stocks as a high potential speculation. But most of the conventional investments out there, real estate and conventional stocks, absolutely bonds, I don't want any part of them, not for some time in the future. And right now we're in the eye of the storm. It's going to get much worse in the next couple of years. If we talk this time next year, I expect that this will be acknowledged widely, which it's not right now.
We're talking with the international man, Doug Casey. Doug, thanks for visiting with us.
Vic, it's always a pleasure.
Pleasure.
The Money and Wealth Show has been brought to you by AmericanManganeseInc.com.